Let's dive right into this explainer, because today we're taking a completely fascinating journey through a source text called The Ultimate Japan Trip, Tokyo's Hidden Rules. What makes this source so incredibly unique is that it's actually an imaginary 7-day travelogue. It basically drops some of our most recognizable cultural icons. We're talking Conan O'Brien, Tina Fey, Jack Black, Marie Kondo, and the late Japanese comedy legend Ken Shimura, directly into the heart of Japan. Guided by experts Chris Broad and Peter Barakin, this group isn't just, sightseeing. They're actively uncovering the deepest, most complex societal secrets of a culture that literally operates on an entirely different frequency than the West. And I just love how our source kicks things off. Conan O'Brien perfectly sums up their arrival with this thought. Japan immediately became a polite psychological exam. I mean, how great is that? It brilliantly sets the tone for the journey we're about to take. It's hilarious, for sure, but it's also a deeply analytical look at that massive leap from sheer culture shock to profound cultural appreciation. So we aren't just looking at temples and sushi today. We're really looking at how a society of millions manages to coexist.
All right, Section 1, The Invisible Rules, Navigating the Silence.
The very second the group lands at Narita Airport and boards the train, they're hit with a society governed entirely by silent, invisible rules. It's just a stark contrast in spatial expectations. Think about the American approach. We're loud, we're individualistic, we're totally fine with a little emotional confrontation. But the Japanese reality? It's silent, it's collective, and it's built entirely around minimizing inconvenience for strangers. The source highlights this absolutely hilarious case study. Jack Black opening a crinkly snack wrapper on the dead-silent Narita Express. Now in America, that sound just means snacks. But in Japan, half the train looks up. The group quickly realizes that Japanese public spaces operate on the strict mandate of not emotionally bumping into each other.
Now, you might be thinking that sounds a bit cold, right? Well, actually, scratch that. As Marie Kondo gently observes in the text, quietness is often considered a form of kindness. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this complete societal silence isn't some lack of emotion. It's actually a proactive form of respect. It is pure empathy for your fellow citizens, a highly organized effort to give strangers a peaceful environment in a wildly dense city.
Moving on to Section 2. Convenience and Controlled Chaos, the Vending Machine Civilization. Shifting our focus from those quiet trains to the overwhelming sensory explosion of the city streets, let's look at a pretty staggering number. 4 million. That is the number of vending machines scattered across Japan. As the guide Chris Broad explains to the group, in a city this dense, these machines and those brightly glowing convenience stores aren't just places to grab hot corn soup or an egg sandwich, they actually act as vital social infrastructure. For lonely, hard-working city dwellers pulling long hours at the office, this hyper-convenience is a daily lifeline. It's a whole system, perfectly designed to seamlessly support millions of people.
And honestly, nowhere is that density more apparent than Shibuya after midnight. The text paints this incredibly vivid sensory picture. Just imagine neon advertisements reflecting off the wet pavement in these intense electric colors. Millions of umbrellas drifting through giant intersections like moving lanterns, with the smells of summer rain and fried street food just hanging in the air. It's this controlled chaos that, logically speaking, should completely collapse in on itself.
Which really begs the question, how does this many people move without chaos? I want you to really think about that for a second. If you put that many people in a single intersection in New York or London, it's gridlock, right? Complete standstill. But in Tokyo, it just works. And it only works because millions of people are constantly adjusting themselves for strangers in tiny, almost invisible ways. Everyone is silently monitoring themselves to ensure the harmony of the whole group.
And this constant drive for harmony and perfection, it extends right down to their food too. Sitting in a tiny, steaming midnight ramen shop, Tina Fey drops this brilliant observation. America industrialized efficiency. Japan artisanalized obsession. The source notes that a ramen chef might spend literally decades perfecting a single bowl of broth. It's this intense, almost spiritual specialization. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing one thing with absolute, unrelenting perfection.
Which brings us to Section 3, Tokyo's Emotional Release Valves, where the machine exhales.
So, a society with this much extreme order and constant suppression of the self for the good of the group, it desperately needs safe spaces to release all that pressure. To really understand this, we have to look at two absolutely crucial terms defined in our source, tatemae and hone. Tatemae is basically your public face, your social obligation. Hone, on the other hand, is your true feelings and desires. The entire country professionally suppresses its hone during the day to maintain tatemai, but at night, the pressure valve literally has to open.
And we see this release everywhere. We see it in narrow, smoky izakayas where businessmen finally loosen their ties and just laugh loudly. We see it in the wild, incredibly expressive fashion of Harajuku, where teenagers dress in neon and lace as a completely safe form of self-expression. We see it in thunderous, flashing arcades where people can just completely lose themselves. The imaginary travelogue even uses Ken Shimura's chaotic physical comedy as the perfect metaphor here. Sometimes falling down physically is just way easier than speaking emotionally. These aren't just entertainment venues, they are necessary psychological escape zones for the whole society.
Next up, Section 4, Shrines, Ghosts, and Memory, the spiritual checkpoints.
Right smack in the middle of this neon, futuristic, highly pressurized landscape, you find something completely unexpected. As the source explains, Tokyo is a city essentially defined by impermanence. Earthquakes, fires, and war mean the city is constantly being rebuilt before anyone can even fully remember it. But tucked between gleaming skyscrapers and massive subway stations are these tiny, ancient shrines smelling of cedar and incense. These aren't just old remnants waiting to be bulldozed. They act as quiet, emotional checkpoints. They show how deep-rooted spirituality survives inside extreme modernity, quietly absorbing the past rather than just erasing it entirely.
All right, Section 5, the Kyoto contrast, the bullet train to the past. Halfway through the trip, the group boards the pristine, impossibly clean Shinkansen bullet train, leaving the electric pressure of Tokyo for the ancient capital of Kyoto. And this marks a massive geographic and tonal shift in our explainer. Inspired by the insights of Kyoto guide Peter Barakin, it's helpful to view Tokyo as the brain. Its primary focus is survival, the future, and extreme efficiency. Kyoto is the heart. Its focus is memory and continuity. When the group steps out in Kyoto, the behavior completely shifts. As Barakin notes, Kyoto possesses this social gravity that actively punishes rushing. You just naturally lower your voice.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference in how these two cities handle hospitality. Step 1. Tokyo. It's all about high-tech, automated convenience. Think of the self-opening toilets that gave Jack Black his emotional breakdown. It's all designed to entirely eliminate awkward social friction. But Step 2. Kyoto. It's all about omotenashi, which is traditional human hospitality. At a Kyoto ryokan, the staff anticipates your needs before you even speak them. It is deeply, profoundly human. Tina Fey actually captures this geographic shift with a really poignant thought. She says, Tokyo feels like survival, Kyoto feels like memory. But the source is very careful to point out that Kyoto doesn't feel like a museum frozen in time. Not at all. Rather, it feels deeply aware of time, of impermanence, of fading seasons, and of the incredible beauty in things that just don't last forever.
Finally, Section 6, the ultimate cultural takeaway. Strange in a human way.
As our imaginary travelers finally end their journey at the 1,000 vermilion gates of Fushimi Inari, the core realization, summarized so perfectly by Conan in his final thoughts, is that Japan does not explain itself loudly. It waits for you to understand. It isn't just randomly weird or quirky for the sake of being quirky. Everything we've seen today, the silent trains, the overwhelming arcades, the tiny shrines, the perfect hospitality, it's all strange in a highly organized, deeply considerate, and profoundly human way.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. If you had to build a society from scratch, knowing everything we just unpacked, what would you do? Would you choose the loud, individualistic freedom of the West or the quiet, collective empathy of Japan? It's a really complex trade-off between personal expression and societal harmony. Take some time to reflect on that and on your own culture. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into Tokyo's hidden rules. I really hope this explainer leaves you eager to learn even more about the incredible complexities of Japanese society.